I'm Beto Sud, co-founder of Soul Stereo, and this is the What About the Music podcast.
There's no music-driven brands, not many.
Not many.
By not many, I mean I don't know of one.
The goal of the podcast is to make music and advertising more important and share the stories behind them.
The AI will replace the stock track people. It won't replace real artists, ever.
Relax, stay tuned, and enjoy the podcast. I'm Beto Sud, and you're listening to What About the Music podcast. I'm here with Mo Saeed from Mojo Supermarket. Finally, we made this happen.
Thank you
after
so much
a lot of planning.
Thank you so much for coming to New York and doing this.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I think it's good to have a conversation about, your career, what you're doing at Mojo, and sort of, what your thoughts are on music, advertising, and, music is so important. A great way to contribute to culture and stand out. So definitely want to hear your story and sort of like, I know you do music a lot. You play the keys, you play the piano, you're a musician, songwriter.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people know that, but it'd be good to learn more.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, how did, how did you start in this world of advertising? Where did it all begin?
I grew up kind of doing all these things where like I liked playing music. I liked making like videos, whatever that was, just skits, videos, like film, all that stuff I liked. But there's besides like there not being an industry for it there. But this is also at the time where it's like kind of looked down upon. My mom didn't love me playing music. It was like creativity isn't like I would say, at least at the time that I was growing up at, isn't like the coolest thing for you to be. I didn't know what an artist was. I thought it was just like rich people with hobbies, which fair, it is maybe everywhere. But I didn't kind of understand the concept of it. And I went to a friend's dad's advertising agency. And I saw them doing everything that I liked. Like they were making these little videos, they were doing music, and they're like casting these people, and they're, they get to direct the talent. They did everything from like writing to making something. And I was like, this is awesome. What are you guys doing?
It's like find something you love and you'll never work again in your life. It's
totally.
Like something like that along the way.
And it has enough variety, right? Like advertising is so beautiful because it has all the variety of the creative arts that you can possibly find. And if you're someone who is like broad brain creative, like I bet you Jamie Foxx would be amazing at advertising. You know what I mean? Like someone who's like, I kind of like all of these things and I can somewhat be good at all of them. Like jack of all kind of artist. And it sounded like marketing. It sounded like business. It sounded like something I could go home and be like, yeah, I work in marketing. So I did that. I work in marketing. Yeah, I work in marketing. It's like a business thing. I did that, and I kind of did in an internship there. And then I realized that what I was doing in like Ogilvy in Lahore, Pakistan, was just kind of translating ads that were made in New York. Yeah. And I was like, where do they make these? Like
where's the source?
Where's the source?
I want to see the source.
They're like, it's in New York. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll try to go there. And I went to Michigan, went to school, kind of made up a portfolio, ended up in New York.
Ann Arbor? Around?
I went to Michigan State.
Michigan State. Nice.
Yeah. I'm not that. Even Michigan State, I got into like with a fake like high school diploma. Yeah.
One way, like fake it till you make it, whatever way, whatever shape, form, whatever it is, let's go. It's interesting. I had like, for me, I was obsessed with like growing up when I was a teenager with the idea of being in a band, touring the world, winning Grammys. and obviously quickly found out how hard that was, and how unrewarding it could be at times. Yeah. And I'm from Colombia. So like I was like, okay, but where is all this stuff coming from? Like where's the music industry at? Like interestingly enough. And went to Berkeley, went to, Boston, New York, and like, so like, you and I have in common, like I'm originally from Colombia, you're from Pakistan. Yeah. So like, we both wanted to discover where the source was.
Yeah.
And go at it and just be involved in it and create our own path.
Yeah.
So I think that's so interesting. It's and I think it's such a small world. How you were mentioning your partner. He's from Barranquilla. I'm also from Barranquilla, Colombia.
Yeah.
Such a small world.
It's just it's the best place in the world. It's like it's the United States. It's like the holy grail of you're like, oh wow, you don't realize what you can do here until you're here.
Yeah.
I think there's like a promise, especially maybe you're part of that's seen it more and more people have been there and come back and say like, yo, this is the shit.
Yeah.
You come here and you're like, okay, you slowly start to realize that much more is possible in this place than anywhere else.
It's incredible. How did you meet Camilo? Like, how did you guys connect?
We just sat 2 desks away from and BBDO. Weirdly enough, we both worked. There's like this, back then there was these things called they weren't multicultural agencies. And what they did was just like took the main advertising and just made it for Hispanic communities and Black communities. And that's where Camilo and I both interned at 1 year apart. And then we started at BBDO 1 year apart. I was there for a year. He started his job.
Yeah.
We couldn't be opposites. He was like, I was the guy who interned for a year and then they let go and then somehow found a job there. And Camilo was coming from like, I have 8 offers and I have 19 student canned lions. I'm the fucking shit. And that's kind of like our partnership kept growing that way because I was just like, we're real lucky to be here. And he was like, they're lucky to fucking have us.
Yeah.
That's where we met and we just kind of like opposite people clicked and needed each other in that thing.
Yeah. One of the things that I find interesting is, when you work in advertising, a lot is like music is always present. It's always involved. It's always in the middle of things. But one of the things that I'm curious is what is like the evolution of your career with music? How has it changed your perspective on music in advertising since like the time that you first started when you're an intern to now? Like, what are things that you're tapping into now or things that you have learned along the way? Like that evolution of, when you were an art director or a copywriter back then when you first got into the scene and sort of like music and advertising, how has it evolved?
I think it's funny. So I'm a songwriter, right? And I've been doing this for 12, 13 years now. I've never used my songwriting in a piece of creative. And that's because I joined, and if I just showed up with my guitar at work and was like, hey, I wrote a song for this commercial, it'd be like fucking weird.
Yeah.
But if you see somebody now, if I reach out to somebody on Instagram to make a commercial or whatever, that person is fully gonna do what they do and they're best at. And that has shifted since I started and where we are right now, where a creative can more so be a creative. Whereas when I started, you had to be the same person, pretty much. All of you had to be the same person. So you had to know the same references and same music references and same like scene references and all that stuff. So music's come a long way. And now I think you can make more stuff that is music driven because it's effective. Like jingles everywhere in the world. I have like 6 jingles from Pakistan lodged into my brain right now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you remember some from wherever you found yourself. And they work. And they are like the catchiest thing. And if they're done really, really well, and artists want to be involved in them. But most artists don't want to be involved in them. The agencies maybe aren't the right, the marketing and the artist thing is really, really interesting. Where they're both kind of afraid of each other and kind of not. It's hard to make something together. And as more artists are connecting with brands through like influencers or whatever, and agencies are connecting them like us, I think it can come back to, I would want to propose a music idea that I write because I'm getting A, more comfortable, and B, artists are more willing to play in that space.
It's totally open.
Yeah.
Right. It's totally open. And when it comes to music and advertising, I mean, people forget it's 50% video, 50% sound. And I believe that now, like right now, everyone is all over the place in terms of, what they do. You're watching, a soccer game on TV, and then you have your phone on. And then, but I feel that what makes you pay attention to something is if you hear something you like.
Yeah.
Instead of, because like you're seeing many different things at all times, but like what is going to get your attention? And music has that unique power that I think that nothing else has. And so if you hear something you like, that's so powerful. And I don't know. I mean, you talk with a lot of brands at all times, and I don't know how often music comes in the conversation, but it's so important how, every brand should have a music strategy. Every brand should be thinking about music constantly. Have you seen an evolution of people more embracing that, like embracing that music is more of a strategy
I don't think
instead
so.
of an afterthought?
I think we're really far away from music-driven brands. I think now there's an opportunity more than ever for a music-driven brand, right? But there isn't yet.
Yeah. There have been great examples of brands that have used music and have leveraged it properly. But overall, it just feels like an afterthought. A lot of times
I think people have used music properly. Don't get me wrong, but it like a dating app's campaign could just be an album of love songs that are actually just your journey from like breaking up to getting back into dating. And it can be an album of songs. So, like that's like a fully brand expressing itself through music. That shit doesn't happen yet.
Yeah.
And like the type of music or getting a couple artists on roster and making like, there's no music driven brands, not many.
Not many.
By not many, I mean, I don't know of one. Even the music companies are not music driven brands really, because they're music platforms and they have to cater to all of the music.
Yeah.
But no brands like Pellegrino's doesn't have like a music strategy. I don't know a fucking single brand that has a music strategy.
But isn't that like a huge missed opportunity?
Huge missed opportunity. But to effectively do that, you need somebody, a company that understands what that is, a marketer that understands what that is, somebody to be able to like ideate with them, whether that's a musician or an agency or whatever. Like somebody who understands marketing and music on both sides of the team. For us to find that, I think it's hard. Yeah,
that's sort of like why we're trying to do this is to get the message out there. Like,
because there's a lot of closeted musicians in advertising.
Yeah, you don't know who they are, and you don't know the work that they're doing, right?
And they're right now they treat music as their like refuge, and they don't bring it into their work.
Yeah, I mean, what we were saying before, how like the channels are open, and it's so easy now to contact an artist, get in touch with them. Like we see it every day in the work that we do. Like there's about 60,000 or 70,000 songs uploaded daily to Spotify. How many of those are great artists that are just there waiting for an opportunity, right? So like the possibilities are endless. But every brand should have more of a say in music, more of a music strategy. Because there's been a lot of times where a brand does a unique campaign and music is important in the beginning, like what Converse did with Rubber Tracks. They would get a music studio. They would invite artists to record in exchange for a pair of Converse. I thought that was brilliant. Basically that became viral. The engagement, the mentions, like just went up, but they were like positively contributing to the artist's career.
Yeah.
They were providing them a hub. They were providing them a space where they can feel creative and do creative stuff.
Yeah.
But that's music strategy. That's right. And
who does it? Do you think? Do you know anyone who does it?
Who does
music strategy?
Who does music, like brands that have a good music?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the go-to, right? I think there's a couple of distinctions here. There's brands that are purposeful in the music they choose in their commercials, right? I think there's great brands that want to be different. They want to, work with artists, right? Instead of going with a stock track, right? I think you see brands like Apple, obviously they're always prevalent. I think you always see a brand like Google Pixel. They're always trying to use good music by artists, right? Because the norm in advertising has been, let's go with a stock track or let's go with an original composition.
Your answer to my question is basically like someone who you're saying like they use real songs is where the bar is. I'm saying music strategy is in like a brand is built.
Oh yeah,
music.
I mean, yeah, it's not a lot. I don't know.
We're not even at like entry level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
If that's the conversation, I don't know who's doing
because like you asked the question, and it's just hard to, like you mentioned Pellegrino.
Yeah,
like everyone loves sparkling water. I think they're a great brand, but the missed opportunity is, it's just there's so much that could be done there. And you talk about a lot of times like how you allocate budgets and how you distribute a lot of them, right? At the end of the day, you want to get your consumer to feel good about what your space in the world is, what your product is, what you want to get them to feel good.
Yeah.
And I just think it's obvious how like, music is the single best way to get someone to like feel good. The studies are there, like, the effects on dopamine and just how it can like, how it can rewire you in a way. When you feel down, get a good track that gets you like that has a huge power.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm sometimes like amazed at how that's not present in the conversation. And so it's interesting how, I'm having a hard time answering your question because it's true.
There's none. There will be. I think
that's the work that we're trying to do.
I think you'll be successful because I think the space does exist. Let me change it to that. Like, I think the space does exist because I think you can now put out anything at any moment. And that can be any sort of art, whether that's like you're mailing people something every day or you're putting out a song every day for them to see, or a song that develops or a beat that develops or a sonic identity. Now, instead of being a logo at the end or at the beginning of Netflix, sonic identity can just be a full brand. Like, a brand has a specific design look. You can have sonic identity of a brand. So there's a lot more to be done in music right now. Do you think that AI will make it worse in your line of commercials? Like when you make commercials, do you think AI will make it even hard? Will make people want to use AI stock even more because it'll get better?
That's a good question. I think first, like with AI, at the end of the day, when you're a brand and you're working with a piece of music in a campaign, you need to make sure that you're fully covered from a legal standpoint too. And so right now, the biggest question mark with AI is like, okay, you have all these websites that can like give a prompt and they generate a song for you, but where's the music coming from? Like how was the AI trained? And there's this website that was like it's like one of the leading AI generated music AI called Suno, but they were just sued by the major record labels.
Because they're trained on music.
They're alleging, claiming that they trained all their music without permission.
Existing music.
Yeah. And so like imagine imagine from a legal standpoint, you're a brand and you use, one of those AI generated websites. I want a song that like is energetic, that's happy, that's upbeat, that talks about having a good time in the summer. And then it generates this like, and I want Dua Lipa as a reference. And then it generates this track and then you release it. It's a huge risk.
It depends on
a copyright infringement. That's the one question mark.
Yeah.
But I think eventually where we're headed 5-10 years from now, maybe way sooner, if the major record labels figure out some sort of licensing deal with the AI companies, then I think it would be possible. But like Fortune 500 brands, like the bigger brands, like I think they're gonna be like their legal counsel and like the BA teams at all the agencies are gonna be like, wait a minute, you need to figure out.
Do you think we're ever gonna go back and say, let's sue this AI company because their models were trained on the internet? Whether it's like a video software or a music software or whatever.
It can happen.
I bet you the fucking courts fill up the day.
Yeah, of course. People want another revenue stream.
No, but there's going to be 100. I don't know if, like, OpenAI is traded on the internet, right? Are you going to get it for the internet? Like, it's based on, like, it writes my letters based on Walt Whitman's poems.
Yeah. It's murky.
I bet you the music thing doesn't go. I feel like it's going to move so fast.
I mean, just think about what happened.
We're never going to get to. This is going to move like Napster fast. You know, like it's not even going to be.
Well, go back 10 years. Go back 10 years. Where were we 10 years? And look where we're now. So if we were to in 10 years time, how quickly it became this. Imagine 10 years from now, it's going to be exponential. So.
And it's all going to be trained on today. So I don't think.
Yeah.
If I'm a small brand, I take that risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there are companies, like there are a lot of brands that are generating AI content right now. There are many.
And that's where the big company.
Scripts.
The big company, small company is going to be an interesting thing because the big company is going to watch for that risk and not use AI for a really long time in their advertising, even to produce content, which is even to cut content and all that stuff. And the small companies does not give a fuck and will take your face, my face, combine it with her face, make an ad, doesn't give a fuck. And those small companies are going to grow because people are people and they don't care.
Yeah. I'm siding with authenticity though. Like
I respect and understand where you're siding. I'm saying it's just not going to happen.
No, of course. But I just think that the value, especially like working with brands, like I
honestly think it improves your business. And I'll tell you why. Because when everybody's making the same stuff, then is the need for two things are going to happen. One, more brands are going to want to be music brands, right? Like musically driven brands. And second thing that's going to happen is like the AI will replace the stock track people. It won't replace real artists ever. So it's going to delete a business, but it's not going to delete your business.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, what is interesting is also like you have this segment of, you know, like you just said something like everyone is doing it. It sounds similar. Like I think you can tell. I mean, it's not easy because it fools many of us, but at the same time, when something is AI generated right now, you can sort of tell sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
My issue is that like right now, musically speaking, a lot of the music sounds the same. Also, like you know
why you can tell right now with the music stuff? Because not a lot of musicians are using it.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
If musicians were using it, they would make it sound like it's supposed to fucking sound.
Yeah. But even like a lot of the music that's in the top charts right now, like a lot of it is
it's
you know what I'm trying to get at? Like
culture is really interesting right now because it's fragmented, right? So it's very, 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 very fragmented. We're not watching like the Tonight Show every night, you know? We're watching your podcast here separately, and then I'm watching his podcast here separately. Yeah. So there's like, it's a completely different world's going on. But at the same time, trends which would have been like, did you watch last night's debate, are happening at a music level or a one video level. She said this thing. That's like all of us have heard it. This thing, this music is going on. Doja Cat's song stuck in my head fucking all 2 weeks. And then we all pick up Tyla's song. And then her song, na, na, na. And that's stuck in my head. So there is trends going on, which is super.
Yeah, but you just like, that's basically the concept of borrowed equity. So you pick up the trend of the moment and then, oh, that's so cool, man. Kendrick Lamar, boom, jump on that trend. There's that, jump on that trend. And then it's like basically like a low shelf life of
totally.
And whereas, why not do something because it just makes sense, because it's beautiful art, because
because
goes with our values instead of
because then you're an artist.
And what's wrong? And what's wrong with being an artist?
Nothing's wrong with being an artist, but it's actually beneficial to be an artist. For a brand to be an artist, Gentle Monster, just playing art, killing it, right? Every brand that's actually doing art, Liquid Death is actually just making art, is doing really, really well. But art has to come from kind of one person or a couple of people, keep their vision. And that vision,
someone has to drive it, someone has to channel it.
And it has to have a purpose. And both things need to exist. Like your daily, I have to appear in your mind daily, which is the content, which is like it has to be regular and like get you to do things.
Yeah.
And then you have to remember me. The way I like to think of it is like moments, memories, magic, right? So in everyday moments, every day you need to have a moment where you're like, oh shit, this text came from Mo. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And then a memory needs to happen where like we go out for dinner, right? And then the magic thing is like we're going to a stereo picnic, right? That's a relationship.
Yeah.
But you can have that relationship with your followers or your brand people, like members or whatever the fuck you want to call them, customers or whatever. They can see something from you every day. And then that can be not that meaningful of content. You've spent like a couple hours making it, but then you could partner with an artist to make a full album. You know, there's always going to be levels of this shit now because of the delivery side is so fast. And that's why music is so bad too, right? Like before we started recording this, you were talking about the Beatles. The Beatles had like years to write their albums, right? This is you're pumping one out a quarter. That's like very, very hard. You're pumping one out a quarter while you're performing it, while you're promoting it, while that cycle is like way too short. And some people are really good at it. Some people are really good at writing songs that fast, but also life doesn't move. In a year, nothing changes with you.
You know, it was interesting. Before the Beatles came out, a lot of the music like sounded the same. Like a lot of the music a lot of music that you were hearing before the Beatles started like everyone was a little bored, and then it took someone for the Beatles to come up, create something genuine that no one expected, to fuel this new like creative enlightenment in
Who's doing that? Who's doing that today? Do you think?
And so there's right now and this thing is like we're like in it like every 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
Like after 60, 70 years, there's like always like a stage where like everything sounds similar. So, but there has to be someone that is going to inspire.
Someone just has to go into, I think I go back to the AI thing. I think it'll also change that. Either the adoption of that or the rejection of that. You know what I mean? Either the adoption of it and something interesting will come out of the adoption of it. And the person who will completely reject that, go back to like, you know, just a fucking Shure SM78 mic and just record something, you know? It will go both ways and something interesting will come out of that.
Yeah.
Both of them are the combination of that.
I mean, yeah, that's the beauty of a recording studio. That's the beauty of like when you get together with people and you start jamming, there's that connection that I just feel that you pick up the guitar, I pick up the piano, you pick up the drums, bass, and you start playing together in one room.
Yeah.
There's something so powerful with that no AI can even generate.
I think that's not going to go away. That like I told you I'm jamming, I'm playing music at my house at 6:30. Like, you know, like that's just like you have to be able to do that to be able to be
and sure, like
to be able to create something.
But these are the conversations that are important to have. Mo, like is there like a campaign or you know that you're working on or have worked on where you believe that music played a good role? It was a good example of usage of music. Is there something that you can?
You mentioned Google. I right before I started Mojo Supermarket, I worked on a Google commercial with a Mr. Rogers song that had never been licensed for anything and isn't a bit like it was just part of an episode. And it was this beautiful song that my partner at the time found, Joel. It was just completely his idea. He was like, there's a song in a Mr. Rogers episode that it's about like, did you know how great it is to wonder or something like that? It's just a beautiful song. And he just cut it to footage and he said, what do you think about this? And I was like, this is amazing. And we just kind of went to like the Mr. Rogers Foundation. We were like, there's no way they gave us the song.
Yeah.
But they just saw what it was. And it was about just like complete wonder. And Terrence Malick shot it. And that was the last thing I did before I started Mojo Supermarket. And I went, it was just this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that I don't think you could make without those two things. And the song was the whole idea.
No one had ever heard it before.
No one had ever heard it before, but the Mr. Rogers movie had come out. So you kind of knew who he was, even if you didn't grow up with him.
Yeah. And
you heard the song that was just beautiful poem about fucking wonder. And it was stuck in my head for a while. And it was just a beautiful thing to be able to, it was that kind of a simple idea that I don't think you can convey without a song. Like songs sometimes simplify something really, really, really nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great example. But Mo, this was great. Like before we close out, what sort of like I always like to ask this, like, what sort of music are you vibing to lately? What sort of, music that you want to mention that you hear that you're listening to now, or music that has been important to you throughout your career?
Well, we talked about this offline that this isn't the right answer to this, but I just heard the Eminem album last night because it just came out last night. Super interesting.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, like, it's concept, and he's so good, and like he's just trying to get canceled in it, which is like a wild idea. And he's still so good at his like craft, which is amazing. 2 days before I had heard the like Donald Glover just coming back in first song, which is also interesting in a very completely different way.
But you see, they beat their own drum, they go in their own pace, and I think that's what we're talking about, right? Just don't be idle. Do whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever you get a calling to do something, do it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like what you were saying. Like you write a song, you don't even record it. You just go to the next one.
I just write. I think there's a lot of closeted musicians in advertising, or writers or writers or painters or whatever, that just write and don't produce because first they're afraid of producing it because that's the thing that they left to go do advertising. But secondly, they don't produce also because it's their like safe haven where they get to just do whatever the fuck they want. And at work, they don't always get to. So I've always kept it very, very separate. I will like ghost write songs for somebody, but I won't put it out.
One day we'll hear
I probably will this year maybe, but I've just been like, I just write, get it out. It's fun to write. It's fun to jam. We're not even performing anywhere. And it's just fun to do that. And then
once you record it, it's just like, it's tangible. So it's different.
It also becomes a project, right? Like, and if you're running a very large project all the time, I used to tell people that were starting a Mojo Supermarket before they were starting a Mojo Supermarket. I was like, in your break between your last job and this job, just paint a painting and fucking light it on fire. Or like whatever you like to do, right? You like making videos, just make a stupid video and then delete it. Or like write a song and then just fucking forget about it. Because then you'll start falling in love back again with just doing it because it's fucking fun.
That's what it is, yeah.
And you just forget that. So I like an outlet where I'm just writing a song and be like, wow, this might be the best. Holy shit, I forgot it. And just knowing, it just reinstills the trust in you that stream is an endless stream. And if you don't have it, and if you believe it's not an endless stream, it stops.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that and just writing it and letting go because it just keeps, like I can write twice as many because of it.
That's amazing. Well, one day we'll hear it.
One day maybe you'll hear it.
One day. Mo, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
This was awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah.